freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 429 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. The theme of our show, I want you to really listen to the words. If we can keep it. Mm-hmm. That is very important. And our guest today is Xi Van Fleet. She is the author of Mao's America, A Surviving Warning. She grew up in Mao's China. She spent the entire school years in the turmoil of the Chinese Cultural Revolution, but attended college in the U.S. She has never been politically involved, but like many Americans, 2020 had become a turning point for her. Compelled by her personal experiences under Mao and the realization that Chinese Cultural Revolution she lived through is taking place here in America. It's happening here in America.
It's happening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She has committed herself to the mission of educating American people about the horror of socialism, communism, and warning of the danger of cultural Marxist woke revolution that is threatening our country.
Her upcoming book, Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning, will be available in October of 2023. Welcome to the show, Xi.
Thank you so much. Thank you for finding me and invite me. Yeah.
You know, I had a hard time reading the script because I'm almost shaking at thinking that we are becoming what China is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is frightening. It's absolutely frightening.
It really is. And we're going to unpack that as we go forward. And the way that I found you was two things. One is I'm a visiting fellow with the Independent Women's Forum, and you did an interview with them.
Yes.
They helped us connect. And I also saw you on, I think it was a Fox and Friends show, maybe just recently.
Yes.
And
yeah.
About
the indictment. Yeah, I think it's about Trump indictment.
And the title of your book just struck me to think, what the heck, I don't think you are far off at all. I don't disagree with the idea that that's happening at all. And if we can help more people focus in on it, the more the better. I want to start, though, that part of your story is that after high school, like you're still in China at this time, you and other urban youths were forced to work in the fields for 3 years to be re-educated by the peasants.
Yes,
so
yes.
Did the Chinese government want you to learn how to be farmers? What did they mean?
I know.
Educated.
All this is foreign to Americans or to Westerners or people live outside the communist China. By the time I graduated from high school, the Cultural Revolution have kind of run its courses, and so many people died, and the economy was just totally non-existent. So one of the reasons that Mao wanted to send all the urban youth to the countryside is there's no jobs, and he did not want to have a lot of youth in the city jobless, right, and become potential troubles. But re-education is a term that the CCP has been used for decades before the Cultural Revolution. It really meant thought reform. And they believe that we all have, no matter how indoctrinated we are, we were never complete communist. We have to keep reforming our thought so that we think exactly what we're supposed to think. Like good communist. So it's especially important for the educated people and intellectuals. And even I just graduated from high school, and I am considered an educated person. And when an educated person, they tend to think too much. And the goal is stop that, reform it so that you will be like the peasants who are the true revolutionaries.
Interesting.
It's really a punishment.
Why send kids to school anyway if that's their thought process?
That's exactly what Mao's question. What's the use of education? So in earlier years, we had 12 years school system, just like here, K to 12. Mao cut it, 2 years out of it. So there's no need for education. Just 10 years is enough. 10 years is too much. Even those 10 years, the bourgeois or the bad thought might get into those people's mind, like the kids. So he cut it off, and so during the Cultural Revolution, he radicalized education system. So everything has to be controlled by the party lines. And for 1 year, we had no textbooks. The textbook we used before was not good enough, not radical enough, all banned. So we had Mao's Little Red Book as our textbook for an entire year. Are you familiar with that? And I think people started to learn about the Cultural Revolution. And the Little Red Book, the little book of Mao's quotations, is kind of like our Bible. And everyone had a copy, and we read it from beginning to the end and over again and again and again. And we're supposed to remember every line, and we use the line to guide our thinking, guide our action. And that's what the Cultural Revolution education system became. Totally radicalized to be, for one reason only, indoctrination, and train the students to be future revolutionaries.
Wow.
Just like here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you, like when you went to the farms to work, was it like prison camp? Was it
it's
hard
not
labor?
farm. It's really not even farm. It is collectivized farming. So all the land, everything belonged to the state, and we were just laborers. And so it's very primitive, and the peasants and were just as poorly treated. They had no land of their own. So every day we were gathered in a meeting place, and the leader will assign us task for the day, and then we make points, and then in the harvest time we use the points to exchange for produce. So it's like a plantation. It's really like slave plantation.
Well, and it's interesting that he's taking people who at least have been exposed to some level of education and putting them with, it seems like he would be educating the peasants accidentally, because you're going to take your knowledge with you, but yet it was already pre-scripted. It's
the goal is not the peasants are more educated or enlightened. The goal is we become more like parents, the peasants. So we don't think, and we just become what's the word? Zombies.
Or slaves.
Yeah.
So
slaves.
What happens if you protested or thought of different ideas and shared that? What would happen to you?
Well, you would definitely be arrested and imprisoned, and if you refuse to be reformed, you'll be executed.
Ooh,
very simple.
Wow.
And that is something that even like for you can't even fathom what was it like in living under communism, because the history of communism was never really taught to the American people. It's not in the curriculum in our public schools, not in the universities. Today, I'm just angry when I hear young people say communism is about sharing and caring. No, communism is about enslavement.
Wow.
It to me,
and you lived it, so you should know.
It's about sharing the necessities, and it's also about you you are a slave. You are a
Yeah.
slave, no matter what they
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
I see that with the young generation too. And no, I have been privileged. I've had a good life, but I couldn't imagine being told that, no, you can't do this. You have to work in the fields, or you have to do this, and you can't grow. You can't advance. You just stay the same.
It's not even that. You advance. You are nothing. You are not an individual. We are all a group. Our group is, we were conditioned to think that our goal in life, or our dream, is the dream of the party. And the party will put us wherever the party wants us, and we should be happy about it. We should not complain about it. And we are the property of the state. And we're conditioned to accept that. So what you think, oh, I want to be a good party member, and I want to make the party happy. And that's what most of the people were conditioned to think.
Wow.
It is, in slavery, it's just a evil system. But
Absolutely.
the communist slavery is not only your physical freedom, it's every part of your life. You're thinking, everything they want to control. We had control of how much grain we could have, how much meat, cooking oil, toothpaste. Where can we move? We cannot just move around. We can't just move to another city. The peasants could not just come and decided they want to live in the city. No, they can't. And we were so poor, but travel was such a luxury. And I did not see another city until I was in high school, and I went to visit my hometown, and which is the next province nearby, and that was a luxury. So many people never get to go beyond their little village.
Wow.
Everything is
So
controlled.
you did end up earning a master's degree in English and library science. Am I saying that right? Library science?
Yeah, library science, yes. Okay,
And
so
go ahead.
what happened to me is that Mao died when
Okay.
I was, I think when I was 18, I was still in the countryside. And after his death, Deng Xiaoping took over the power, and he was a reformer. He knew that China was in the brink of total collapse. It's just absolutely dysphoria. It's just absolutely in a ruined state, and he has to do something. So he decided to open China up, and then to invite the foreign investment. In the process, and Chinese citizens for the first time could go outside. And I applied, and I was so lucky to offer assistantship to come to study in America, in Kentucky. Yeah, that's how I got out.
Oh, wow.
So did they want you to come here and learn and then go back and use your studies there, or what did they want you to do? What was their reason for letting you go?
Yeah, that's what their goal. But most of us, nobody want to go back. And so, and during the it's 1989 that the Tiananmen Square student massacre, if you remember that.
Yes.
Congress passed the law to allow all the students that came before 1989 to come and to become eligible for a green card.
So if you went back to China now, would you be considered a criminal?
Well, things are different now. Things that later on, Xi Jinping sent a lot of students, to America to study. He wants people to come here and to learn about the science and technology, to go back and build his empire. So things has changed, but I am a product of Mao's China. And that was the brutal regime in the history. And so now it's, you can come out somewhat, but Xi Jinping is tightening it up. Now it's more and more difficult.
Yes.
Very good. So, your day job, which I think you mentioned off air that, you've you've kind of moved away from, so that you can focus on the work you're doing now with your book and spreading information. You were in the field of information management. So that, in my marketing brain, that sounds like, you're a marketer in some way. Can you describe what that field is?
Yeah. I had a degree in English when I was in China. When I came here, I got a master's degree in English, and I really could not use that. It's to get a real job. So eventually I got a degree in library science and become a librarian. But I don't work in library. I work in companies to manage the data, like index the data, So I was just like, it's a boring job, but I like it because I don't have to deal with people. I just deal with data. So I worked there, for almost 30 years. And mind my own business, never getting involved in politics. And until, just like you said earlier, 2020 was a turning point for a lot of people, and definitely was a turning point for me. And when I saw what's going on with BMM and Tifa burning our cities, I said, that's it. I have to do something. So I got involved.
Yeah, even our media is doing it to us too. They're trying to change America, and it's very scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the people that are watching and listening, that, especially the ones that feel like, we want these t-shirts that glorify and glamorize the idea of Marxism and communism, they clearly, I think, they don't really understand what the Cultural Revolution was in China and how that pertains to what's happening here in America now. Can you unpack that a little bit more for us to really kind of put a sharp point on it?
Yes. Yeah. And the reason I got involved is what is happening here is history being repeated. And that's the history that I lived through under Mao, the Cultural Revolution. And what is Cultural Revolution? Really, a lot of people still wonder what it is about. It is about destroy all the tradition, all the past, all the history, all the institution, and destroy everything so that you can build back better, in Biden's word, build back like what? Build back in Mao's own image, to build China back, to wipe out all the past, so that to build China with Mao Zedong thought. That is like Maoism. That is the most radical version of Marxism. So during the Cultural Revolution, we did the cancel culture. And in Chinese words, it's destroy the four olds: old tradition, old idea, old habits, and old custom. Everything that's old has to be destroyed. That including destroy the statues of Buddha, the statues of Jesus, anything that represents something traditional, something religious, has to be destroyed. And those were done by the Red Guards. Who are the Red Guards? They were the kids. The kids were weaponized during the Cultural Revolution. And the kids were from as young as elementary school kids to college. They were the ones that did carry out Mao's revolution, and they were called Red Guards. Now I started to call the radical youth here American Red Guards. And they are doing exactly what the Chinese Red Guards did, including changing names of institution, names of streets, and in China, as far as names of their own personal names, because everything has to be revolutionary and have to be up to the standards of political correctness of the day. They absolutely, when I saw this BMM changing street names, right? They changed so many school names in Fairfax, Virginia, and next to my county. They changed some school names with Washington or Jefferson, and change it because they don't want the slave owners to be their institution names. And that's exactly what happened in China. So all this and identity politics, now we're so obsessed with identity. That's exactly what happened in the Cultural Revolution. The Chinese people were divided into two classes. One is red class, the good guys. Another is a black class, the bad guys. The black class are the enemy of the state. The problem is, who decide you belong to red or the black classes? The party. The party in power decide, just like today. Now Biden said the MAGA people are extremists. And so, and then the kids were taught to hate them. Once they were labeled black class, they were the enemy of the state. They're no longer human. They are absolutely enemy to be destroyed. The kids killed many people and started with the principle. The first killing that took place in Cultural Revolution were done by a group of middle school girls. They beat and tortured and killed their principal in Beijing in 1966. And that was the first killing. And after that, millions were killed. And they died in the hands of the Red Guards. Why such hate? It's because they're indoctrinated. And today they say, why they hate so much? They hate Trump. When you talk the name, just mention the name, they were just like, shaking with hatred. Same thing. Indoctrination, of course, in the media too. The media was all controlled by the CCP. The kids are the instrument of the revolution, which is exactly what's going on today in America.
As you say all this, I'm seeing it happen. You give examples, and I see examples of
exactly
here in the States, and it's like
yes,
it's sickening. It is
sickening.
Absolutely.
Like in China, the family were divided. And so because from very early on, we were taught our true parents were the party. Our true parent was Mao. And if you find anyone stand against party and Mao, they're your enemy, even if they're your parents. And kids, many kids reported their parents, and some ended being executed. And that is really happening in America today. The family were divided. The whole country was divided. And the hate is just the only thing I can think about is what happened in the Cultural Revolution, that the kids can hate their teachers. They kill their teachers. They kill their principal just because Mao said they belong to the black class.
And they're not punished, or they're just...
No, they're supported
praised.
just like today. Do you think those rioters, do you think those criminals were punished? No, because someone was behind them. Someone granted them the power. And that's happened in the Cultural Revolution. Here we defund the police. There we destroy the whole criminal justice system. Whole thing is gone. No police. The Red Guards can do whatever. And here the same thing. Now the criminals were celebrated and the police were punished. Right?
Wow.
Same thing. That's why people really need my book, because I detailed in it the parallels.
Absolutely.
The parallels is frightening. It's frightening. That's why I call entitle my book Mao's America. It is to me, or people like me, it's history repeating.
Absolutely. And I want to ask the question that I think we're definitely going to get there at the end, but I'm going to ask it now. How do we stand against it? Do you have a prescription for us? Do you have a fix for us?
I know the people ask me that question, and of course, we have to stop it, and we can stop it. But I always say the first step is to understand, and that's what we're doing, right? We're doing it to reach out to the people, your listeners, and to let them know that really what happened in America happened before. It happened in
Yes.
China and it happened to people like me. And it is Marxism. It is communism. So you have to understand that. It's no longer some crazy, the left just go kind of crazy. No, they already, the nature of the Democratic Party has changed.
Yeah.
It's becoming, and all has become, a communist party.
Yes.
All the tactics they use are identical to what Mao used, to what Xi Jinping is using today. Okay, so understand it is the first thing. And you can't really fight something you don't understand, right?
Right.
So the next thing is to expose, just like what you're doing, reach all the people who listen to this, and if they think that makes sense to them, tell their friends, tell their family and coworkers if they can. And then we need to resist, and we need to get organized.
Well, it looks to me like instead of having a family, we need to raise our family. We need to raise our kids, and we need to put thinking in their heads instead of programming in their heads.
Because the school is already being captured. You know, that public school and academia. And then it is now the family. The family has been so destroyed in America as well. But that's what happened in China. They destroyed their family. That's how they control the kids. But here, we need family to teach our kids the real history, the value, and because school, while we're fighting for school, but we can't count on it right now. We have to really depend on the family. And of course, how do you keep the family together? We have to keep our faith. And that's always what communism does. They destroy religion, they destroy family, and the takeover of education, the takeover the media, and of course, they confiscate the gun, and then they control everything.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
That
always,
was
always.
my next question is, why would the Second Amendment be important from a survivor of communism like yourself?
Yeah, and
perspective.
at first, when I came here, I didn't understand the issue of guns. I said, oh, Americans are crazy. They just love guns, you know, and why we need guns. It took me a long time before I understand the brilliance of our founding father. The gun is there to secure our basic rights. And that it took me quite a while, really, being an immigrant. You know, I never saw a gun because we were so disarmed. I saw gun as when I was in school, we get military training, but it's not my gun. You know, nobody owned any guns. And because the population is so disarmed, they have no way to fight back. And so actually, this is something I still trying to relearn everything that I was taught, because everything I was taught was fake history when I was in China. And I remember this, even I just found out just like a few months ago that in my area, in the Southwest, I heard from very young age that there's a lot of armed bandits in the 1950s, that the army have to go there and suppress it. I just learned recently, those were peasants uprising, because the peasants were pushed and by the CCP to the point that all their produce or their grain were confiscated, and then they decide to band together and rise up. They had arms, they had weapons back then. Wow. And so, of course, the army suppressed them, and the gun was confiscated. But that to me is, oh my God, in old China, the people were armed, but that could not be tolerated by the communists. So when you have no arm, you don't have rights, but you don't have arms to defend your rights. So you basically just be totally controlled and become helpless slaves. That's why we need our Second Amendment. And to me, I have to say, it took me a while to understand why. Yeah. And I think a lot of Americans, they never taught why, They just taught by those the left that, you know, gun equals gun violence. And, you know, that is the key. Education, to me, I think what we are dealing with today is really information war.
Yes,
The kids were
absolutely.
not taught history. They were not taught our Constitution. They don't understand why we have to have our Second Amendment.
Well,
No, you're
you know,
exactly
just
right.
there's another parallel there. You know, you said that these people were fighting in the mountains to defend themselves, and they labeled us as criminals.
Yeah.
And we're doing that today. There are people that
yeah.
are defending themselves, and they're labeled as criminals. Oh, he
Yeah.
had 100 guns.
Yeah.
Had 100. Oh, he must be some kind of
Bad
criminal,
guy.
bad guy because he has 100 guns.
Yeah.
And we're doing the same thing. We're making it, if you have guns, that you are a bad person. That's what they're teaching kids that guns are bad. And so I'm getting chills seeing all this stuff. But I wanted to ask you, is there, you know, the red book that you talked about earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a version of that in English?
Actually, you can. There's PDF. Yes, you just you search Mao's Little Red Book.
Okay,
It's
just
just
interesting. It's just interesting to see how that. I'd like to see how that was formed and what.
It's
what
all
the
just a bunch
content
of nonsense, but you can try
I'm
to
sure
read
it is. I'm sure it is nonsense.
Just to look
One
for
of the-
parallels.
Yeah,
But it's
right?
parallel.
One
It's
of,
more parallel.
Yeah, I can just because I read it, I don't know how many times back and forth, and I remember so many lines. One of the lines is the power came out of the barrel of the gun. Okay, so it's violence. If you want power, you need violence. The other is rebellion is justified. So that is the slogan that the kids chanted when they went, you know, around and destroy our civilization and country. Rebellion is justified, and that's what's going on today.
Yes.
Yeah, it's from Mao's Little Red Book.
Yeah, and we can burn buildings and businesses,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's all okay. They have insurance. It's all okay.
Yeah,
You know,
that's what they
it's
say.
Because they're fighting against oppression, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing we heard.
You know, I look back at this and I say, okay, I would rather be a slave to capitalism so I can choose what I want to do and how I want to work versus being a slave to where I have no choice at all.
Yeah, actually, to me, capitalism means freedom. It gave you
agree.
a choice. It gave you a choice. You
Right.
know, if someone pay you not enough, you have the choice to reject it. In communism, you have no choice. That's the same thing as no freedom, right? When you have no choice, you have no freedom. That's everything was given. We were given a job. We never just go on and look for a job. We were given this, we were given that. And so if you don't obey, you got nothing.
Right.
If you don't
Taken
obey,
away.
you'll have no food, no housing, because everything's controlled.
Well, the reason I use that example is I'd rather be a slave to capitalism is because a lot of people are saying capitalism is a form of slavery. And
not,
so let's go to be communism where everything is shared. They're both, you know, if you have a choice, I'd rather have the choice of being a slave to capitalism because, again, my whole life, every choice I made was mine.
Right.
Yeah.
No one
Freedom.
told me
Just
what I
one.
had to do.
Freedom,
Yeah.
and it's
Yes,
worth fighting
right.
for. So that takes us, you know, kind of full circle as we start wrapping up. That our U.S. founders did promise us only one thing, that, you know, we would have to exercise eternal vigilance in order to keep it. And of course, we've titled this episode, "If You Can Keep It,"
Exactly.
because it's not promised. That is part of freedom. The downside of freedom, I guess, is that, you know, it can go away. There's always somebody looking to either coerce, force, or woo you into a state of enslavement.
Yes.
And we have to
Totally.
keep it in the forefront of our minds. We are in, I believe, a spiritual war. You've mentioned how spirituality is so important. I believe we're in a culture war, and I think that we've moved from it being sort of in a cold state, a Cold War. I think we're in a warm war with
Yeah,
both.
yes.
Those,
We see violence. Yes. It's no
right?
longer a war of words. It's violence now. Chaos
Exactly.
and violence.
And so you already did mention this, but just as we go out to give our viewers and our listeners just a little bit of a roadmap or a recipe book, just tell us one more time, what is it that we could do, should do, must do, in your opinion, to keep America bounded in our values that our founding fathers fought, bled, starved, and died for in order to even have the opportunity to write this document?
Yes, of course, there's many things we can do. But one thing that everyone can do is get involved in local politics. I was in a fundraiser for a school board member, a school board candidate, not even in my own county, in the next nearby county. I've been to another one the day before to support a Virginia Senate candidate. We have to get involved at the local level, especially school board. That's how we get back our school. And we have to win the war over our children. They are our future, and they are really the future of this country. And we need to stop the indoctrination, and we start with school. And I think if school is the battle that decides whether we win the war.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they've turned the Red Guard, if they've turned children into murderers of their own principles and parents, turning them in to face execution, we know it can happen. There's no guesswork there. Yes. We know the playbook they used to cause it. And if we don't wake up and pay attention, we're going to end up in exactly the same boat. And we will end up, actually, Mao will be, it will be Mao's America, as your book is titled. And are you feeling like, we are already in Mao's America? Or are you feeling like
in many ways,
caution?
yes. In many ways, yes. But I always tell people, we're not fully a communist country yet. We can still talk like today, talking to you. We still have a certain freedom. If we let it go, if we don't fight to keep it, definitely. Absolutely. Down the road is tyranny and totalitarianism waiting for us.
Absolutely. Well, they tried to do that already with Facebook and Instagram and everything. So it's a fine example. Yeah. You say it can never happen in America. Well, folks, it's happening in America. It's happening, and that's why if we can keep it is such an important statement.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, G, thank you so much for all that you're doing. Thank you for taking time to be with us here today. Could you tell folks how they can purchase your book and follow all the work that you're doing?
Yes, I hope people will check out my book because we touched a little bit of those topics today. But in my book, I lay out all the main parallels of the Cultural Revolution that took place in China and the Cultural Revolution that's taking place in America. And when we understand what is really happening, we will be able to fight it back more effectively. Also, I'm very, very active on Twitter. So follow me, and my handle is, it's no longer Twitter, it's X, right? It's X Van Fleet at X. I'm sorry, it's getting confusing. So it's X Van Fleet on X. And my book, the title is Mao's America, Survivor's Warning. And it's you can pre-order it anywhere books are sold.
Fantastic. I have mine pre-ordered on audible.com because I can listen as I'm running around traveling and all the things I do. So you have multiple opportunities for people to hear your wisdom and read your wisdom. Thank you again so much. And I do follow you on Twitter, and I'm sharing heck out everything you post because I'm like, yes, more of that. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. God bless. We will definitely connect with you again.
Hope so. That would be
Yes.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
My gosh, the hair on my back of my neck is standing straight up right now,
I hear you.
because as she was talking, I kept showing comparables in my head of all the things that are the same. And it is super scary. And it's like, I want to know what my grandkids, when they come home from school every day, I want to know what they were taught. I want to
love
know,
it.
even at grandkids. I mean, you think at an early age it won't make any difference, but it does, because they position them to go to the next year and to the next year and the next year. And pretty soon they're in college. And we know, I mean, everybody knows for a fact that we're being indoctrinated in college.
Right.
It's happening.
We've had so many people, say over the years, that they raised their child to be, a certain way, and they were a certain way when they left high school and they went off to college. By the time they get back for Christmas, they start, their thought processes are a lot different. Flash forward to the next Christmas. Well, now we're having major arguments at the table, which can be healthy, right?
Well,
Healthy. But then by the
conversations.
third Christmas, now we've got this major divide, and
Right.
they feel like they've lost their child.
Yeah, I've
And-
had conversations with people, and they say, yeah, all my family is conservative except for the one.
Yeah.
There's always the one.
That
And I
went
say,
to
is that the one that
college.
went to college? Yes, that's the one that went to college. And it happens a lot.
And it's one thing the way that it is currently, but when you overlay that with what happened in China, that just terrifies me to think that the government filled these young people's minds with murderous intentions.
Right.
And now those human beings have to live with their actions.
Yeah.
Because they accepted that and acted on it.
But they're okay with it. They're okay with it because they are really for the state. But I remember having a conversation with relatives of ours that think, oh, the communist way is a good way, as they're searching stuff on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, if this was a communist country, you would have a phone maybe, but you wouldn't have the information that you have.
Mm-hmm.
They would limit your information.
Are we kind of limited in information?
Well, even
right
more
now?
though. I'm just saying
It's true.
more.
It's true.
So it's like I said, there's people that say that being that I'm a slave to capitalism, but at least I have a
heard
choice.
that phrase actually.
They don't, but they look at it like, oh, you work for the man, you work until you retire. Well, you're a slave to that in a way. But it's like a slave with, in a way, maybe. First of all, I enjoy what I do, so I'm not a slave to anything or anyone. But some would feel that I am a slave, and I'd much rather have this choice. But we probably have to wrap it up.
We do, actually. That was such an amazing conversation. I cannot wait for the book to come out. Usually what happens is I listen to a book on Audible, and then I get so enamored with it, or I want to go back and explore the thoughts again. And so I end up with a physical copy as well. So that's probably in my future. And I encourage you to do that as well. Thank you again to our awesome guest, G. Van Fleet. And for her work, Mao's America. Thank you so much to all of our listeners and viewers. Wherever there is internet on this planet, we have viewers and we have listeners. And that is amazing, because it shows that you are hungry for the information that our subject matter experts offer here, our guests offer here. And then you take that information around your dinner table. That's everything, because that's where you unpack it. That's where you question it. That's where you wrestle with the ideas. And then hopefully you will, as Xi has encouraged us, you will take that into your local school boards, into your local politics, so that we are helping to reclaim, I think is the right word, reclaim our values here in this nation, and pushing back on all that craziness, doublespeak and destruction of our history and our traditions that Marxism and Maoism are all about. Thank you again to our guest and our listeners. And if you want to go back and watch any portion of this video or any of our videos, then go to wherever you get your video content, but certainly YouTube, right? And when you get there, please subscribe and hit the notifications. That makes it harder for them to hate on us, makes it harder for them to cancel us, because when you, the end user, tell them with your subscription and your notification that this is important to you, that helps. So please do that. You can go to GunStreamer, do the same thing. You can go to OpsLens smartphone app. If you want to listen to the audio only version, because maybe you're out for a Sunday drive, or you're working in the yard or something, then go to our website, GunFreedomRadio.com, click the On Demand tab, and
binge listen to your heart's content, darling.
beautifully done. And if you want to see photos and bios and links to books that some of our guests have written, like Miles America, go to the guest tab. It's a tremendous resource. It's ever growing with subject matter experts. And when you spend time there, we don't hate that. All right. Until next time, we are going to
pray for our nation.
We're going to pray for our
impeach that
leaders.
governor in New Mexico.
Gonna pray.
Pray for the, yes, pray.
And how about the ones that we're a little frustrated with, like the
Impeach
person you
them.
mentioned?
Pray to impeach them.
Maybe especially pray for those.
Yes.
And the people who are maybe trying to impeach them for very unconstitutional behavior. I don't know. It's a thing.
The problem is they swear to they'll keep the oath of the Constitution.
And she said her oath is not absolute. She can do whatever she wants to, but guess what? You can't.
Wants to. She can go to
because it is still America.
And maybe see how much she can get away with.
Exactly. All right. I've lost track. What have we
We're
done?
saying goodbye.
All right.
We're just saying
until next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Be good to each other. Have a great week. And God bless.
Bye.